Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Solo audio program, recording at 2:46 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas. Once again on Saturday, April 25, 2026. This is very rare. It should happen more often, actually, but it's a very rare O2 episode 2026042502. That's 2026, 04 for April 25, and then it's number 2 today. Yeah, ironically, no, humorously, I don't know. The first episode this morning, Indivisible, started to run along, and I had only touched on like 3 of the bullet items I had, so I was like maybe halfway. And I figured maybe we should take a little break. So this is Indivisible Part 2, really because it's just the bullet items that I didn't cover. I just copy pasted them into a new outline for today, for the second time today. It's basically, since it's a continuation of that show, it's not a completely separate show. So what we were talking about is sort of still relevant. The context, if you're into AI, can persist. I was watching an episode of the Bulwark with Sarah Longwell and Jessica Tarloff from Fox, The Five, and what is it? Raging Moderates with Scott Galloway. Jessica's interesting. She's a very thoughtful person. The Sarah Longwell thing, she's a little bit more odd. But anyway, it was on, and I was like, oh, interesting. And it reminded me of a few things. And I have been reading the Federalist Papers as part of a general refamiliarizing myself of our founding, some history. I like history. I like reading about history. So this is Indivisible Part 2, and we'll see what happens. So the summary of this episode, I went with the ironic title of an episode that required splitting to a second part. See what I did there? And some other stuff, as usual. So the links are the same. I linked to the relevant YouTube video. For the first time, I added an extra link to a Coffee Solo episode. So that was in 01 earlier today. So yeah, let's just jump into it. In the context, I'm not talking about the actual Bulwark episode, but it just reminded me of a few things and the times in which we find ourselves of late. So I'll just jump into the next bullet item was politics, parties, pragmatism, and why is dishonesty accepted? So I did an episode of something in this program like a week ago, 18th, I think. And the previous episode, I was talking about the Federalist Papers because I had been reading them then. And then I reread some things about national versus federal regarding the Congress. And it's just been a topic of interest. So I don't like politics. I think the two-party system, despite, I think it's Duverger's law, and that I talked about in an FFS Talks episode. So let me pull up Duverger's law so I got it right. Duverger's law. Yeah, so I'll just read the first paragraph. It's in Wikipedia, so Duver, G-E-R, Ger. Duverger. Oh, I'm sorry, Duverger. I think I did that the other time too. Duverger, it's, holds that in political systems with single-member districts, so you can only have one representative for your district in Congress, for example, in the U.S. Congress, and the first past the post voting system, so winner take all kind of thing. As in, for example, the United States and the United Kingdom, only 2 powerful political parties tend to control power. So it's going to be that, one or the other are going to garner the most votes. And then any third parties will kind of fall away as protest votes and so on. Citizens do not vote for small parties because they fear splitting votes away from the major party. So that's the first paragraph of the Wikipedia page. Duverger. D-U-V-E-R-G-E-R. Duverger. So, and then you can read it. There's the mechanism and some other stuff, and very interesting. So my take is that political parties, because of the way we do things here in the U.S., we force the coalition building onto the voter. So you or me, we must decide which party is the closest or the least disappointing, right? Like I've done at least one full episode of something on this. I am not a Democrat. I'm not even really liberal. I'm more of a start in the middle and see what the issue is and how I think a systemic view works. So that's hard to describe, I suppose, but it means that I don't say I'm going to be a liberal no matter what, or blue no matter who, or all these things. Like, I think it makes more sense to consider like a total systems approach to how it would be nice if things functioned, and then vote for things that seem to fit that model. But because we only have basically two choices, thank you, Duverger, because we only have the two choices, we pretty much have to pick one of the two. And again, the third parties, if you're not Ross Perot, you don't really have much of a shot. And then, of course, the Republican Party arose from the what was it, four-way election. There wasn't actually a two main and two minority. So I think, what was it? Were Democratic Republicans still there? Whigs, and well, anyway, so the Republicans won with Abraham Lincoln. So if you look through that one, okay, that was a very trying time, and so that was an interesting opportunity to have the introduction of additional political parties, and then you still went back to the two. So you're going to end up with two main parties unless something unusual is happening. And I mean, it's been a while, so George H.W. Bush, George Clinton. We want the funk. I do that more often than I should. Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, and then Ross Perot jumped in there and was something of a spoiler, taking votes from George H.W. Bush. So Donald, what am I going to call him? Donald Clinton? No, but Clinton won with a plurality, I believe, that year, his first term in office. So it can happen, but it's extremely rare, and it's because of just the nature of voting and how we count votes and so on. If there was a ranked choice voting option, which I think is at Massachusetts is trying that, I don't know if that can be done on a federal level. Can we vote for our House representatives using ranked choice? Not sure, but that would be interesting. So then it's not winner take all or first past the post. So, you can go with, no one has a clear plurality, so we'll pick, we'll go by ranked choice voting and choose the winner that way. So it adds some options. But the big thing is, because we have to form a coalition around our, in the pool of voters, you have to decide, well, I'm either going to go with red or blue. The Green Party is interesting. I wish I could vote for them, but I know they're not going to win. Some people will do a protest vote. For the most part, you're like, well, I got to pick one of the two. And so you pick the lesser of two evils, as they say. That's not great. That's not actually democracy. So another way to do it is, so you may have your politics, right? And your politics may be weird. Like, I think mine are a little unusual, but not too crazy. Probably the simplest version would be like fiscal conservative, social liberal, I guess. But even that, not really. So, but it really depends. So the attempt to say you must be in one of these two buckets, these two populations, puts the onus on the voter, and you have to pick whatever. And so what you end up with is candidates that will move to the center, as they say. They want to be appealing to all of the voters that they could possibly gather to vote for them. So they'll soften their positions, they'll change their messaging depending on who their audience is. They'll try to be a little bit vague about what they're going to do, what their intents are, and all this. And you end up with, like, well, what do they actually stand for? Did they promise to do anything? And then what? So really, it'd be interesting if you could vote for the candidate you want, who aligns with what you would like to see. And then if, whichever one wins, it could be somebody from the pink party, who knows, whatever, the tree party. When they go off to Congress or the Senate or whatever, they have to form a coalition when they get there, or they'll have to be in and we have this now with independent or libertarian. I think there's 2 independents. I don't know if anybody is libertarian officially in Congress, but there are a few independents. Bernie Sanders, famously independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats. So he's basically in a coalition with the Democrats. So that's interesting because he's able to do that, but occasionally he could vote with the Republicans if he needed to. So when you force the representatives to make these coalitions, they can select. Now, of course, that becomes politically anxious if people say, well, you say you're going to be with us, but what about the next time? Like, well, I have to serve my constituents. So this is all a big negotiation. So it'd be a cultural change. And I think the 2 parties are right now so deeply entrenched and contemptuous, so much vitriol between them, and so much forgetting what the Congress is supposed to do and how it's supposed to function in our federal system of government, where the states are supposed to retain some of their rights and the Congress is supposed to tell the president, the executive, what to do, not the other way around. So yes, it's a negotiation, but yeah, all this stuff has been thrown out the window over the last year for sure, 14 months. So my view, a more pragmatic view, where you're looking at just, and if you I don't remember which one it is, somewhere James Madison points out in one of his Federalist papers that he wrote that the passion of the electorate, or the passion of the voters, must give way to the reason of the representatives, I think it was. So if you allow the unwashed masses to vote for things like the president, or to have a referendum vote, or to be able to have the general population, like, I think we should be able to initiate an impeachment. Our representatives are so politically entrenched that they won't move because they have their hard set coalition, which is the party that they're in. So so many things have been affected by this, where they're just like, hey, we're voting in lockstep. It's along party lines, etc. So if we were a pragmatic electorate, we would remember that we're supposed to have more power than our government. And we might say, like, hey, this isn't working. We need to get back on track. But there's just enough people, I guess, a dwindling number that are in on the MAGA agenda, so to speak. So it'd be nice if there was a little bit more pragmatism from the bottom up, if the bottom is where the voters are hanging out. Certainly the base of a pyramid that is much larger, because there's 330 million, 334 million, I think it is. And there's 435 Congress people. I'm sorry, in the House, in the Congress, that's traditionally what people refer to. And then 100 in the Senate. So 535 people in the Capitol that we have elected, coming from a national population of 330 some million. It's like we are a very wide base. Our voice should be louder, but unfortunately we give way to the Congress, and now the Congress has given way to the president. The Democrats in Congress, because they are in the minority in both of the houses, and the Republicans, because they have completely ceded power, control, oversight, everything to the unitary executive, which is not how things are supposed to work. It's not what we agreed to. So if we're a pragmatic electorate, we would say, hey, this has to go. This is not working out. So it probably would be possible to get a majority who would vote for some sort of a change or some sort of a reminder, I suppose. But instead, classically, our system of government chooses to allow the voters to vote for candidates for national elections to express their concerns. That is not a redress, unfortunately. That is just expression. Like, we're not happy with this candidate, so we'll vote for a different one. Well, that's not really voting for policy. That's not saying we don't want this, and the majority of the people in the country don't want this, so we should be able to vote on this, but we hand that over to the Congress. So it's unfortunate. Oh, wait, there is one way to do it. You commence a constitutional amendment process, which takes forever. And actually that has to start in the Congress. You have to basically work through your representatives. Am I remembering that correctly? Congress has to propose an amendment. It has to get like 2/3 or 3/4. I could look this up, but I'm going to talk about this more in a future episode of FFS. So But anyway, so the process of amending the Constitution is purposely, by design, tedious and time consuming because you're supposed to move all the way into pragmatism. A passionate update to the Constitution would be chaotic at best and catastrophic at worst. So instead, just do executive orders. I would very much like to see executive orders go away. I would also like to see, or actually executive orders that would have like a 30-day window and could be, they would expire in 30 days, not a presidential term, and with the option of going to Congress maybe and building a bill around that would be signed into law if appropriate. So executive orders are in an emergency, I suppose, for something like this, maybe, but to make them so drastically consequential, completely working around the entire process, the entire process that is supposed to introduce the will of the people and the checks and balances, and not co-equal branches of government, by the way. Co-equal branches of government would be able to do more on equal footing. Just ask yourself which branch of our government can remove members of the other branches of government, right? There's only one. So not co-equal, just on that basis. And I'll give you a hint. They're listed in order of power that they are supposed to have based on the will of the people that they represent. So it's unfortunate that things have gotten the way they are. I'm a little bit disappointed, to say the least. I have mentioned somewhere else previously, when you do all these different podcasts, it's hard to just say, oh yes, I already talked about this, because who knows if you listen to my other audio programs. But I mentioned this. I was 5 years old for the bicentennial back in 1976. It was a good time. It was a very patriotic time. It was a different time. And that was in the days when, what's his name? Nixon was resigning from office, and the Vietnam War stuff was just kind of settling out. I think we evacuated in 1973, was it? We went off the gold standard. All kinds of stuff was going on there. There was the what do they call it? The oil shortage, the oil crisis. That reminds me of now. So yeah, fuel prices at the pump were going up, and it was crazy. And then there was this move towards efficient driving, and Japanese cars sort of took the market because they were small and fuel efficient, and we had our big American cars. So that was all in that sort of time frame. It was a totally different time, and yet so much the same. And why is dishonesty so accepted? So we're going to see, it's only going to get worse as the end of this presidential term comes around. But how much dishonesty, how many of the cabinet people, how many advice and consent processes included direct questions with completely ridiculous answers, and then it's just, well, okay, yeah, that's it. Hey, are you making money from prediction markets, person? Maybe they asked that during a hearing of some sort. No. Who won the 2020 election? That's a big one. Hey, is there which files have not been released from the? So every time there's these hearings, there's massive untruths. It could be during confirmation. It could be during other hearings. Just in general, we are definitely in a post-truth era. But I just find it interesting because, thanks to selective enforcement, you may be in trouble for lying to Congress. You may be in trouble for not showing up to Congress, or maybe not. So they're so wildly inconsistent. I think it's causing trouble. And historically, the United States has found a modicum of success in the world because we did adhere to the rule of law, and because we were a reasonably consistent place in which to do business. Storing your money here, investing your money here was probably going to be okay, in the sense that the government wouldn't come in and take over, like just automatically nationalize things if they felt like it. That's not really true anymore. Breaking the law meant being held accountable. Now it's paying a little extra for a pardon, and then you're off the hook. Right? So it's very frustrating as a normal person watching this stuff. I'm not a billionaire, not yet. I'm not a billionaire. I don't have any particular pull with anyone. I'm not a character of note in the country or anywhere else. So it's not like it's not like I can wave my opinion around and people are going to go, oh, wait, what's Dan saying? We got to listen to this. So I am just like everybody else. We're in the unwashed masses. Or there, if it's 330 million of normal people and a couple million billionaires and rich people and people who make a difference because people want their opinion and their approval, it's like, well, we outnumber all these people. Why are we allowing this chaos? And of course, the classic is you split that population along political party lines. And if you do it across two lines, then you can definitely control one and malign the other, I suppose. That's the practice nowadays. So politics becomes a divisive conversation. Political parties become tribal and take on the same air as a sporting events, like a boxing match, some sort of pugilistic sport where it's okay if you get injured or hurt in some way because you're one of them, you're not one of us, that kind of stuff. And we've kind of lost our pragmatism. It's all emotional. It's all vitriol. It's all, as long as I get what I want, I don't really care what other things are happening. That was one of the things they asked probably Republicans to rate, a letter grade for the current president. Well, I would give him like a B plus. I'm okay with everything except for the gas prices. So price of eggs, price of gas, everything gets distilled down to me and how it's affecting me. So, and that is understandable. However, without looking around and saying, well, why are the gas prices so high? Because of these things, because of these actions, because of these things that will cost us much more later. I think more attention should be paid to, what we used to have anyway. And so part of what they were talking about in that show on the Bulwark was what comes next. And at least people are starting to say we can't go back, which is absolutely true. So if you go back, you're just going to get here again. So some sort of a day of reckoning that will last for years after, assuming there is an after. I kind of think, I don't know if you remember Theodore Roosevelt. He was of the, what was it? He was in his own political party. It was like the big old tough guy party or something. I will look this up because I'm curious. He was a Rough Rider. Oh, the Bull Moose Party. That's right. He was a member of the Republican Party when he was president. So after he failed to secure the nomination in 1912, I guess for another go. He was not a second term consecutively, but he was attempting to run much like 45th and 47th president. So he was trying to be the 26th and then the 28th. So he formed and ran under a third progressive party, nicknamed the Bull Moose Party. But I don't know if Bull Moose, Reform Parties like women's. Oh, okay, yeah. So he went from the Republican Party of the time. Now the Republican and Democratic parties have sort of switched sides. So you'd have to actually look into what that really means. That's not something that people make note of. So if you're a Lincoln Republican versus today's Republicans, they're not exactly the same. So you're not really a Lincoln Republican if you're in today's Republican Party. Something to think about. But so rugged individualism, that was a thing that Theodore Roosevelt used to advocate. Like you should be, take care of ourselves kind of thing. And I kind of think rather than viewing social programs and what people call entitlements, but I think they're really just insurance that our society will remain viable. So really, we should be enabling and encouraging rugged individualism. So enabling people to start businesses, you have your small business administration, okay. But making sure people eat, making sure people know how to eat, like how to get food and where to get it. And maybe we should be encouraging more agriculture because things are getting a little crazy in the Midwest again with drought. So there's no reason where all of the food supply has to be based in large areas except for farming at scale. But there have been efforts here in Nevada, in southern Nevada, where I live, to push on indoor agriculture. And in fact, there's an indoor ag Indoor AG, Indoor Ag trade show here. I think it's every year. So because of the water situation, because this is a place where water conservation and recovery, accumulating runoff and so on, redirecting it, filtering impotable water to potable standards, and then putting it at Lake Mead. These are all things that we are doing. So looking at local agriculture in a place that has none, not effectively none. We are really not a agriculture state. We're a mining state, and it's a desert and we don't really have a lot of water, so not too outlandish. But there could be construction of indoor farms, reclaiming water, hydroponics. There's all sorts of stuff that could be happening. So there should be, rather than saying, oh, we have to provide welfare or SNAP or all these things. And I'm not saying don't do that, but I am saying we should really be trying to enable people to be self-sustaining. That might be an interesting way to go. It should leave people who think, oh, they're just getting handouts. Hopefully they would end up saying, oh, wait, they're actually more capable than I am now of taking care of themselves. Like, what am I missing out on? I just have billions of dollars. And guess what? When money becomes worthless, I'll be in trouble, and they'll know how to eat because they'll be growing their own food. Anyway, so I've had these conversations before with people, and my opinion really is there has to be some sort of a priority selection right up front, and you have to kind of stick with it regardless of your political party or political leaning. So mine would be having a population is important. Start there. So if they're diseased, if they are exposed to dangers, if they are unable to eat or drink water, these are the sort of core, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So if you're getting food and shelter and you are generally healthy and secure in your life, if you don't live in fear, you don't live in wondering if you're going to live till tomorrow kind of thing. So if your population is generally functional as opposed to dysfunctional, if it can eat and drink and remain free of disease, and it can move around enough, some mobility, so they're not trapped in a location and suffering poor economies and whatnot. So if you enable people to be completely functioning, participatory parts of their society, right? Like I'm contributing to a tax base, perhaps, if there are still taxes. I'm able to function in the society and add to it some way. You're not going to get 100%, but at least you start out with the premise that you cannot simply wipe out the people that are not, what's the term? Valid, right? If you're invalid, you're an invalid. That's one of the most ridiculous, a word that changes with pronunciation. Anyway, I think if you can enable your societies, whether you do that at a state level, probably should be at a state level, rather than the whole entire government, the federal government, being so directly involved. So really the states, if there's a state right that should be retained, it is looking after the health and welfare and well-being of the people that live within that state, if we're going to continue to have the state-federal dichotomy, right? So I think there should be more focus on, not on entitlements, but on keeping our society resilient. And that means health and welfare of the people that make it up. The 2.1 birth rate replacement birth rate, thank you, is one of those things, right? It's a metric that makes it's important. But if you tell people, you're going to have more babies, well, but we can't afford just living on our own, much less having more kids. Like, how are we supposed to pay for that? Oh, well, you know what? Now you're asking for handouts, and Department of Education, whether you liked it or not, is basically falling in on itself. Okay, maybe it's better left to the states. Hopefully, here in Nevada, they've not really been holding up their end of that, so we'll see what happens. But I think preparing people from early on with education and access to resources, and moving away from the capitalist power rule, like, oh, if You got to be in the top 20% to have 80% of the success, right? Otherwise, you're just nothing, and you're just a blue collar worker. You're just doing your putting in your hours, and that's it. Like if you make a prosperous society that is accessible to everyone, which was the American dream, maybe it's gone. You'll probably have better success than whatever it is we have now. And so I don't know. We're definitely adding to the history books right now. But I just really think that enabling people rather than the billionaire class becoming the important part of our population. And if you ever want a better example, I don't know that you'll find one on the Democratic side. When this, you can refer to your history books into the future. When Joe Biden, who was the sitting president, was considering whether he would stay in the race, which he wanted to do, or step down, he waited so long that there wasn't really an opportunity for a full Democratic primary process. So they just went with the vice president, and theoretically that's fine because political parties are not constitutionally defined entities. There's no like constitutional Democratic primary process or anything. So the Democratic National Committee is a company, for profit. I think RNC is nonprofit and DNC is for profit. I might have those reversed, of course, but I think that's true. So these are companies, and they pick winners. They try to pick winners and fund them. And they happen to be able to take donations. Whatever the for-profit entity is, it probably has a charity arm that can write off or can allow, it's tax exempt probably, and allows for write-offs or something. Can you deduct? They would have to be like a 501c4. Is that correct? Anyway, whatever. That's a different thing. The important part is, what was it? So while they were going through this deliberation, they literally said, we're also asking the donor class. So they basically split the Democratic electorate into people who donate money and people who don't. And the people who donate money, we're not talking $5, we're talking $5 million, right? So thanks, Citizens United. So I think that was the big tell. And anyone who's in the Democratic Party hopefully stepped back a little bit and said, wait now, what? You're literally splitting us up into those with and those without. That's interesting because you're supposed to be looking out for the people without. So I personally think the two parties, left and right, should really be sort of divided if there is a division. There should be a group of people who may have their differences in policy and approach to certain things, but ultimately there should be a return to like, hey, we're the people that make up this country. This country is supposed to belong to us. Why are we fighting with each other? There should basically be the party. Well, I'm not a Marxist. I think Marx's system of the worker revolt and the workers running things and so on is completely non-starter, right? I always say, do you think the employees of Amazon would have formed Amazon? No. So it's really difficult to get without a thought leader, without an idea person, an innovator, right? And of course, that person probably takes the risks right up front, trying to raise funds and all this stuff. So to think that like, oh, now it has to be a cooperative with the employees and there can't be, and they make a big thing out of profits. I don't necessarily agree with his view on profits for the hierarchy of management. Anyway, forget all that. The two terms that are already defined for us so that they're in common use. The bourgeoisie is the rich people, the people in the fort. The bourgeoisie stands for, what does it stand for? It's a fort. It's I'm totally spacing on the word. It's anyway, it's the house on the hill. It's the protected area. It's where the rich people hang out. And we are the proletariat. So I really think the two political parties, if there's going to be only two, should be aligned on that horizontal line. You're either in the top 1% or you are in with the rest of us, right? We're in steerage. So, yeah, what does bourgeoisie stand for? That's really annoying to me. Okay, let's look it up. I know it's fort or whatever, but I'm trying to remember. Bourgeoisie definition. Does it say? No. Oh, translation. Sorry for the pause here. Nope. I cannot remember where I found this. Etymology. Oh, okay. Yeah, bourgeois was a town dweller, which derived from bourg, market town, from the Old Frankish burg for town. In other European languages, related etymology derivations include the Middle English burgese, the Middle Dutch burger, the German burger, Burgermeister, Meisterburger, the modern English burgess, the Spanish burgues, the Catalan burgés, probably. Portuguese. Okay, the French Revolution, ancient regime. No, I'm totally not finding it. Anyway, burg. If you ever live in a town with burg in it, that's the town. That's where the people with the money would hang out. And anyway, or the proletariat. So I would like to see more focus on enabling normal people to be rugged individualists, to be able to build, make, pursue, learn, prosper, right? But instead, especially if you read through the what's the guy? Kern, was this Kern? The CEO of Palantir had released the manifesto with all kinds of crap. Oh, Alex Karp, thank you. Alex Karp and his manifesto, which he published, which is like quiet part out loud in printed form. Totally ridiculous, right? So that's what happens when people have money. They're like, oh, now the laws don't apply to me. I can just do whatever I want. And look at all these people who are continuing to give me money by buying my goods and services. So they get this power trip. We have at least one of them here in Vegas. I won't call him out by name, but he donated a bunch of Cybertrucks to our local police department. So we know where his head is at. All right, enough of this topic. I did not, this will come up again. We're getting into a time when we really all should be reflecting on how we got to where we are today and what's supposed to be happening, what we all signed up for 250 years ago. By the way, I don't know about that. The Declaration of Independence says we're going to not be British subjects anymore. But the United States government was not formed. The Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia was 1787 in the summer. So there was a gray area with the Articles of Confederation and trying to figure stuff out. So I don't know that it's fair. But anyway, 250 years. So is this what we really wanted? Chaos and attacking other countries for no reason and blowing up people in boats without due process and shooting Americans in the streets for being. I did not attend the National Association of Broadcasters show, which was in town this past week, during the week, Monday through Wednesday for the floor show. I had a free badge. I did not attend CES 2026 in January. That was the first time I didn't go to that in 13 years. Mobile World Congress Vegas is probably no. I went there twice and it was mediocre and then worse. So I did not go the third. Have I missed two? I think I may have missed two. That's a good question. Either I've missed two or this will be the second one I miss. Had a free badge once again. Just not worth it. At some point, these trade shows become tire kicking and exchanging business cards with people who will never contact you. So it's like, not really worth the time. I do intend to go to the HD show, which is in 1 week. It's in May 5th, I think it is. So what is that? 10 days, 11 days. So I do intend to go to the HD show. That's a little bit more different. Differenter. It's a show more about design, and it kind of fits into the hospitality space with interaction with guests and tourists and visitors and so on. So it kind of fits into my one of my startup pursuits, the Sentiment Research Collaboratory. So I'll probably, I plan on also a free badge. Free badges. Why would I just not go to shows all the time with free badges? Because they're still a pain and they still feel like a waste of time. And every time I talk to people at these shows, I'm reminded that, even though you are interested in what I'm saying right now, the moment I turn around or you turn around, you will completely forget this conversation and you will never respond in a useful way ever. That always happens. It's not about me. It's just that people are overwhelmed. I'm sure I've worked at a trade show. It's just too much. So I think the trade show is a nice place to see new product launches and whatnot. Unless I was in a position to get someone to sign a contract today or on a particular day, I don't really see the value of wandering around the shows. Now, I get the free floor badges. I don't try to go to the meetings, the secret gatherings. Sometimes you have to pay extra for that. I don't really do that stuff because that's not where I am. But I don't think the trade shows are what they used to be. I've told this story somewhere. I went to the Comdex here in Vegas I think it was 97, maybe 96, 97. That was fun. That was interesting. And the weirdest part of that show to me was that we had a room. I was sharing a room with a coworker from UMax Computer Corporation. So we had our room, and then we figured, how about instead of doing the taxi, we'll walk. We'll walk to and from the convention center from Treasure Island. And so we'll have some exercise when we get there, and we'll do our thing. So I got there on Saturday. We set up the booth. Probably the Teamsters were pissed off that I was lifting things. We set up the booth, and then probably Sunday we went and hung out downtown. We were playing at what was then the Horseshoe. Now it's Binion's on Fremont. So we were playing 25-cent craps. And then during the week, we'd get up early in the morning, walk down to the convention center, open up the booth, ready to go. When the show was over at the end of the day, we'd walk back to Treasure Island. It was dark. And it was very weird. Like a lot of stuff that's there now was not there at the time. So there was more dirt. And just trying to get a picture of what that was is very strange. But the trade show was more fun to me. It was more fun interacting with people. It didn't feel like people were judging so much, I guess. And then we were there again for when I was working at Philips. So that was in 2000. So it was only like 3 years later-ish. So we were showing off our flat technologies and a bunch of other stuff from other parts of the Philips global entity. That show sucked. That was nowhere near as fun. So somewhere in there, we must have caught the tail end of like the fun Comdex days. Comdex gave way to CES. CES is just a big giant show. They really just want as many people as possible. They want it to be spread out all over the place. And I have tried to work with CTA on some things that I'm working on. CTA is definitely cooler than me. They're definitely the bourgeoisie. They're up in their ivory tower or whatever. And I'm just some normal person here. And we love Vegas. Yeah, here, here's my contact information. And then we're going to ignore you. But I'm not a fan. So I just think these things are big magnets. They just want attendance numbers. Vegas gets to jack up their room rates. They get to claim that we're the center of conventions. We have the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. So that's what they're all about. And so I think, Goodhart's Law, if the metric, the number of people who attend a show, becomes the goal, then it stops being a good metric. So people measure these things, but they make them the goal. Like, we want to get back up to 180,000 participation at CES. Okay. Does that make a better show? No. The people make a better show. Maybe there would be more people that make the better show, but merely having more people is not the way. So I personally am a little bit burnt out. I have come across people who are like, I only go every couple of years, or I wait 4 years at a time and then I go. 4 years, go, 4 years, go. I understand that now. Now, the fact that I live here means I can shoot down there. I am 2 buses, so no dealing with parking, $20 bus pass for the whole week, free badge. It's pretty much a day out in the fresh air in the convention center. But, between get some air, run into people. I think every year I've gone to CES, I run into someone I have known in my career in the past. So you'll just be wandering around. Hey, how's it going? Hey, I ran into somebody going the other direction on an escalator is that the South Hall that has the escalator right in the middle there? Yeah, I think it was the South Hall. And the Eureka Park, whereas it's in the basement of the Venetian Sands. That also has an escalator right there, but you're right next to each other. In the South Hall, there's a distance between each direction of the escalator. So, hey, how's it going? I'll come down. That was kind of fun. So that has been the most fun part of any CES show I've been to. But generally speaking, you see cool products, launches and stuff. My rule is provably true, but I'm not going to bother proving it, is like 1/3 of the things you see are already available. 1/3 of the things will be available soon. So you're getting a little jump on the 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 launch, and 1/3 of the products will never see the light of day. So, I try to pick the things that I'm interested in that will, excuse me, presumably launch. Let me get some water here real quick. So yeah, I don't think trade shows. I mean, they're still a big thing here in Vegas, but we'll find out. I guess the is it Resorts World New York is opening? Did I just see that? Resorts World. Yeah, Resorts World New York City. The only casino in NYC. That will be interesting because Manhattan, which I'm assuming is where it is, fine dining, whatever. Where is it? I don't know what those buildings are. Oh, it's in Jamaica, New York, so it's basically in Queens. Okay, interesting. So if I ever go to, I don't know if Maker Faire is still in Queens, but if I ever went there again, I would. So Jamaica, New York is basically where the airport is. They have a map. They have a marker as an icon, but it's not an actual map link. How cool is that? So let's see. Let me see how far it is from the airport. I don't know if I've described where Jamaica is. I haven't been there in a long time. Oh, that's the address of the parking lot? What? Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's maybe 5 miles to the west of JFK. And then where's Queens? Queens is, yeah, so Queens is just to the north. And Resorts World is to the slightly northwest of JFK. And then what's the other airport? LaGuardia. Yeah, so I used to fly into LaGuardia if I was going to Maker Faire in Queens. But anyway, so yeah, I could stay at the Resorts World. That'd be cool. I could start getting some loyalty points now. I don't even know if Maker Faire is still in Queens. So Maker Faire, it's the World Maker Faire in Queens. Maker Faire. Boy, if I could type, that'd be lovely. Oh, maybe it's still going. That's good. Oh, no? Yeah? Oh, no, it's still closed. Okay. No, that's too bad. They last had it in 2018. That's a long time. The Make Media went bankrupt. So they've reformed as a nonprofit, I think. So they have a new thing. So I know they have the Maker Faire in San Mateo, which was kind of the first. That's where it all got started. I'm really surprised they didn't get the New York location going again. Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, that's too bad. Okay, well, sorry to be quiet there for a second. I was just trying to see what was up. So 2018, I think, was the last one. I do need to get out more. I used to travel all the time when I was working for Intel. I would, as I've told people many times, I once came home from the airport, threw a bunch of clothes in my washer dryer in my apartment. So I did some laundry, took a nap, took a shower, threw everything back in the bag, got a lift back to the airport, as in not an Uber. Got a lift back to the airport. I was home for 6 hours, and then I was back on the road, and I was traveling to all sorts of places, many trips to Europe, which was fun, many trips domestically. I was doing hackathons, so I was staying up all through the weekend. I would come home and sleep for a day. So yeah, this was ultimately where I would like to return to, Up in the Air, as the movie is titled. I preferred it to be more of a big fish sort of travel plan where I would meet cool people and develop a global population of people that I would call friends. I'm not really sure how that worked out. Over time, I think it's more up in the air than big fish, which is sad but true. But I need to get out more. I need to enjoy. Here's something I've noticed. In the past couple of years, I've been tired. I'm not gonna say burnt out. I've been tired of Vegas more, and I live north. I live in the city of Las Vegas, but I live something like 12 miles north of the stratosphere. So I can, if I go outside, I can see Vegas, right? What everybody thinks of as Vegas, even though we are in Vegas, where I live. We are in the city of Las Vegas. I am in Ward 4. I thought I was in Ward 6. That's how dumb I am. When I actually checked to see which ward I was in, it was long enough ago that I was in Ward 6. Even though I live, this whole time I've been in the same general area. But somewhere, I think it was three years ago, maybe four. They redistricted, which is a thing, for city council wards. And where before Ward 6, I live on the west side of a freeway. So the ward went over the freeway, and then I was in Ward 6. But I guess they redistricted, and now Ward 6 ends at the freeway. So they have a natural landmark divider line. So now I'm in Ward 4. So I just noticed that a couple weeks ago. I was like, do I feel dumb? So I reached out to my city council person on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, she got back to me very quickly. And then I followed up with a comment about Innovate for Vegas Foundation and Smarter Smart City Challenge, all that stuff. Never heard from her again. I'm sure I will never hear from her again. That's how our city council is here in Vegas. So I need to get out more and talk to more people in person as I used to. I used to do this all the time, and that's how you get a better lay of the land. I usually just read and watch news and listen to, I guess they're video too, but the local content creators who do talk about the local economy. There are several. I would like to gather those up and present them on my platform that will get going any day now, to share those resources in a generally to make them part of the news landscape rather than just YouTubers creating more Vegas content. But they get out. That's part of how you have a better feeling about where you are, is understanding it's the nooks and crannies that you encounter while you're out and about. And I have not been doing that enough. So I need to return. I think it's only okay. First of all, I had my ankle injury, which I've talked about on this program. That was a year ago come May, right at the end of May. That was 1 year. So the last year, certainly the whole summer, was kind of shot because I couldn't really walk, couldn't really get around. So, but that was in May. My some relatives, including my mom, were here visiting in February. So that's probably the last time I really was wandering around downtown and on the strip and so on. So we'll call it February of 2025, and then injury in May slowed me down quite a bit. So it's been. It's coming up on 1 year that I've not been, I'm ambulatory now, but so there were several months though where I was like slowed down almost to a crawl, almost literally to a crawl, but not quite. But that was a minus, not as much jumping on a bus and heading downtown or whatever. But February was a year since I'd been really wandering around the Vegas area in tourist mode, if you will. So I should be doing better than that. So time to get back on the horse, so to speak. Is there anything else as we approach 1 hour of part 2 of Indivisible? I was thinking about doing, because this did commence with my discussion about the Pledge of Allegiance and how the final sentence, one nation, you can leave in the under God part or take it out. That was an Eisenhower edition. I didn't even look it up, but I think that's true. Indivisible with liberty and justice for all, right? So indivisible, liberty, and justice for all, I think would be 3 good titles, right? But yeah, these are interesting times. That's why I'm talking about it. As I've said, there are no constraints on this audio program. I really don't talk. And I differentiate politics from policy. Like, politics really come into play when you're either running for office or if you are in a deliberating body like the Senate or the Congress or the House in Congress. Your political leanings don't matter. When policy is enacted, then it's a question of how it impacts you. So you can analyze the decisions made by our government, regardless of your political party or the party in power or whatever. So I don't think politics is such a thing when you're looking at how government is making decisions, what those decisions are, and what the outcomes are. So in that regard, because if you make everything politics, then you cease having useful discussions and actually looking in from a pragmatic point of view, or maybe just objective, just plain objective. Like, here's what's happening, here's why. So I think that needs to happen a lot more. So I don't think talking about those things is politics necessarily. So this program could be about anything. So why not? That is going to do it. I have 1 hour on my clock. So when I truncate silence, it'll probably be closer to 55 minutes, I'm going to guess. But that's close enough. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. That's where you will find in the posts section the Buy Me an Update audio program. And if you don't find it there, If you wait 2 hours, you'll find it on Mondays on the YouTube channel and on danhugo.com and in the Spotify places, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Same with this program, Coffee Solo, danhugo.com, and also YouTube. Where else? So on YouTube, both Buy Me an Update and Coffee Solo are published on my, just under my name, because it's me. There will never be guests. I should have my Daffy Duck laugh, I guess, at that point. So it's on the, what is this channel? The Dan Hugo channel? Yeah, so just at Dan Hugo on YouTube, and you will find my Buy Me an Update and my, oh, what is this? What is this? So YouTube YouTube pulls the RSS feed entries and creates a single frame video and then publishes them, right? Okay, and that works. And then sometime later, and this was the second time it did it to the episode I published earlier today. So sometime later, it will mark it as private so that no one will find it. And then, so I go and I say, oh, mark that public. And then I just noticed, oh, it marked it as private again. That is awesome. And this is a problem that's been known for over a year now, I think it is. And it is a not to fix, will not be fixed. So I made it a point to say, I'm going to do my Playwright automation to try to see if that would work, because I've never used Playwright for anything. And then ultimately, I should be using the YouTube data API. Setting up API access with Google services is a giant pain, but it's something I should do. Okay, that's it. I'm going to call it a day for today. Thank you so much. There will not be a 3 today, but there may be a new episode of this program before next weekend. I'm going to try to do these a little bit more often, get some momentum. That's it. You can hear my voice was doing a little bit better, but now it's running out of steam. So here it is. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll catch you around. Don't forget to listen to my other audio programs if you are so inclined. Bye-bye.